Hi everyone, my name is Andy and welcome to All Lonely Meeples. On this channel I share solo playthroughs of various board games, including tutorials on how to play. As always, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down below. If you missed the other videos on my top 50 favorite board game solo modes, there are links to them in the descriptions below. Being more than halfway through the list, we're down to my top 20. Here are my favorites, numbers 20 through 11. Coming in at number 20 is Cosmic Colonies, a 1 to 5 player tile placement game designed by Scott Almes and published in 2020 by Floodgate Games. I love Cosmic Colonies. It's a tile placement game, and it's a simultaneous action game where you have you're competing with other players. In the multiplayer game, you have the same types of cards, but you will be cycling through them and passing cards to the other players. And so you play with a certain amount of cards and you'll be playing them and then passing those to the players to your right or your left. And the cards are numbered 1 through, I don't remember how many cards there are, and each one has different effects, either gaining resources, different types of resources, or being able to purchase extra times the tiles that you're going to be placing on your rock, your asteroid. And I love this because you'll be playing day actions and night actions, and depending on how high the numbers are played, whether you're the highest or somewhere in the middle, you'll be doing your turns at different times. And it's just a fantastic game about how you trade your cards with the other players, so you know generally what people have in their hands, some info, not all, and you're trying to cover up different types of rocks on your asteroid. Now in the solo game, you're doing something similar. You'll have another AI type player playing a second player, but it's very, very similar to the multiplayer game. Coming in at number 19 is Cape May, a 1 to 4 player area majority and set collection game designed by Eric Masso and published in 2021 by Thunderworks Games. Cape May is a fantastic and beautiful game in Cape May, and you are moving your person around the board, trying to purchase land and placing either shops or houses on there. And as you go through, when you're adjacent to land that you either own or want to buy, you can purchase that for your houses or your businesses, or you can upgrade them for more points. And at the beginning of the game, each person gets secret objectives that they're trying to complete, and that might be trying to have as many more Victorian houses than your opponents in a certain section of the game. The game also comes with different events that will happen every round. And these events could be fires in parts of the area that double the cost, or allow you to that stop you from doing certain things. You're continuing to collect income, and you're also trying to collect bird tokens as you sightsee for extra points. It's just a fantastic game, and it's a little more set up at the beginning, but fantastic play. And in the solo game, you're doing something very similar as a multiplayer game, and it has that same similar feel. Coming in at number 18 is Libertalia, a 1 to 6 player worker placement game designed by Paolo Mori and published in 2022 by Stonemaier Games. Libertalia is another fantastic simultaneous action game where you are the commander of a ship, and you have your crew cards. You'll start with so many cards, and every player has the same types of cards. And you'll be playing them to your ship and doing day actions, dusk actions, and then night actions. And what's different between this and Cosmic Colonies and others is that you'll go from lowest to highest for the day actions, and then you'll go backward from highest to lowest with the night actions, and you're collecting treasures and things that will score you additional points. And so you're trying to keep track of, will I take this treasure before my opponent, but do I also want to play this card because it has an awesome night ability, and does that go is that higher on my priority list than taking treasure before someone else? And in the solo playthrough, they do a really nice job for the automa being that second player and making it feel like a two-player game. Coming at number 17 is Sorcerer City, a 1 to 6 player real-time tile placement game designed by Scott Caputo and published in 2020 by Druid City Games. I fell in love with Sorcerer City the moment I first saw it played, and it is fantastic. It's one of my only real-time games where you start a timer and you go. And what you're doing is you are a mage, a sorcerer, and you have different colored tiles. I think they're blues, reds, and yellows. And so you start the timer and you flip tiles over and you're trying to create the largest closed sections of your colors. And sometimes, and most of the time, they're like triangles or parts of tiles that might be all of one tile, but you're trying to get as much as you can, because when the timer goes off, you're going to collect your resources based on either straight lines of colors or groupings of colors. And so you collect money, you collect mana, there's something else you collect, but you use this to purchase new tiles, better tiles. At the end of each round, a new type of monster is introduced to everyone's deck of tiles. And so when that monster comes out, you need to remember what that monster does. The monster might destroy tiles that are orthogonally adjacent to it, or it might make something inactive next to it. So you're trying to, once that comes up, you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I build around this? Of course, once the tiles are placed, you can't move them, and it's just a fantastic game, and the solo game is very, very similar to multiplayer. Coming in at number 16 is Tenpenny Parks, a 1 to 4 player worker placement and tile placement game designed by Nate Linhart and published in 2022 by Thunderworks Games. Tenpenny Parks is great for two reasons. One, it is a tile placement game, and it is circus themed. I find those fascinating, and they're great. And so in Tenpenny Parks, you have a shared board where there are different types of attractions and rides in different themes and with different prices. And whoever starts each round can set where the highest and lowest prices are by just turning the wheel. And so on your turn, you have several actions. You can gain more money, you can gain more boards, or you can purchase attractions. And so the attractions come with little cards, and then you find that tile and you're placing it on your board. And now what's cool about Tenpenny Parks is that you actually cannot place tiles orthogonally adjacent to each other, because it's a park and we have to be able to have our people walk through. So unlike other games where you're trying to fill the board and make these Tetris style shapes fit with each other, that's not how Tenpenny Parks works, and you've got to be able to leave spaces. And during the game, between rounds, you'll be collecting income and collecting points, and you have the ability at the end of each round to spend more money for points, depending on the types of attractions that you've collected. And it's just a fantastic game. And during the solo play, you're actually playing against the virtual player named Becky. And Becky has very simplified rules to what she puts her workers on. Like she always goes for the attraction with the most points first, and if those are taken, so on and so forth. And it's very easy. She just mimics the second player, and it's quite a challenge. Coming in at number 15 is Nova Luna, a 1 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Uwe Rosenberg and Corné van Moorsel and published in 2019 by Stronghold Games. I love Nova Luna. It is an abstract tile laying game where you have these tiles, different colored tiles. I believe there's 4 colors, and each one has an objective on them. And so they each have a little circle with a timer. And so the timer would put you around the board. It's very similar to Patchwork. If you've played Patchwork, you pay for the patch and then place on your board, and then you move your token around the board however much the timer says. And if you're still behind, if you're still the farthest behind, you take another turn. And that's how this works. As you continue to move around the board, you can take the first 3 tiles ahead of you, but no more. And so when you set them down, one tile might say it wants to be next to a blue, a green, and a red. And so once you've placed a blue, green, or red around this tile, you take one of your little tokens and you place it on top of that objective when you've completed it. And this is great because if you need to place this tile next to 3 reds, well, I could place my 3 reds orthogonally adjacent to it, or there's a chaining mechanism in this game where I can place 1 red next to my tile with that 3 red objective, but if I place 2 more reds away from it, as long as those 3 reds are touching each other, all of those reds are considered touching that tile. And so it's a really neat and fascinating strategy game where how we think of adjacencies, and especially orthogonally adjacent tiles, is a little different because they can chain with similar colors. And in the solo game, you are trying to score above 100 points, which it comes in 2 phases, and it's quite difficult. Coming in at number 14 is Raiders of the North Sea, a 2 to 4 player worker placement game designed by Shem Phillips and published in 2015 by Garphill Games. So Raiders of the North Sea is not a solo play, but I did purchase the app. There's an app for it with the solo play, and I'll be using that in my gameplay of it. And Raiders of the North Sea is great because it's a worker placement game where you are placing workers down, and then you're going to pick a worker up. So you place a worker down and do the action on that space, and then you pick that a different worker up and do the action. What you're doing is you're collecting a crew and collecting resources to go out and raid. Since you're Vikings, you're going out and raiding other towns and towers and castles and collecting all those goods. There are Valkyrie tokens in the randomly set up treasure, where that will kill your crew members, but you also move up a Valkyrie track, so you want to sacrifice your crew members in the right moments where you can move up that track and earn more points. And in the solo play, the app will tell you what to do at each step, and that solo player is taking spaces away from you, and at some points they will be collecting enough resources to go out and plunder and pillage and score those points. Coming at number 13 is actually my newest game, and it is Akropolis, a 1 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Jules Missaud and published in 2022 by Gigamic. My wife and I love Akropolis. We played a few times now, and it is a tile laying game similar to games like Favelas, where you have tiles that you are placing on the board, and you can overstack, and you're trying to put like colors, those are districts, next to your multipliers, which they call plazas, and each one has a certain number of stars, 1 to 3, and depending on what you cover up, you get more cubes, because it's also an open drafting for the tiles. So if I want the first tile, it's free, but if I want anything else closer to where the stack of tiles are, I have to place cubes along the way to take those tiles. And so it's a fantastic game of trying to figure out how to best place the different districts in my city. Some districts, like the red districts, I believe they're military or barracks, they want to be on the edges of your city. So you only score points for those if they're on the edge of your city. There are some markets that don't want to be next to other markets, so you need to make sure that they are separated. And the great thing about this is if I have a market on the first layer, it's 1 point. But if I manage to overbuild and put a market on the second or third or even fourth level, well, now that's going to be worth 2, 3, or 4 points multiplied by however many stars in the multipliers that I have. It's just a fantastic game, and it plays really quickly. In the solo version, originally this game did not come with a solo version, but the designer and publisher came up with their own official solo version, and you are basically taking the specific tiles with plazas or the multipliers and giving it to the dummy player, and depending on the level of play that you choose to do at the beginning, you will assume that they're all connected and you'll score their points that way, similar to King Domino Duel, which I have a video of earlier on. Coming in number 12 is Viscounts of the West Kingdom, a 1 to 5 player worker placement game designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips and published in 2020 by Garphill Games. The West Kingdom series is one of my favorite board game series out there. And in Viscounts, you are a Viscount of the West Kingdom, and you are riding on your horse, and the whole board is a rondel where you are continually moving through different paths, but around in a circle over and over again in the game. The game is complex, and you have your board where it's a light deck builder also. If you ever played any of the West Kingdom series, you've got cards that are going to be flipped over one at a time, and they move through your board. And while these people are on your board, they're going to give you resources and different special actions that you can take. And at each turn, they're going to shift. And so some are going to go off into the discard pile, and as others come in. So your resources that you have access to will continually change. I just love this game. There's so much depth to it. There's also a castle feature in the middle of the rondel where, depending on the actions that I take, or if I go down that path to the castle, I can place more of my meeples, my workers, into that castle and have area majority in different parts of the castle. And if I can go into the middle, I can score even more victory points. There's also a set collection aspect of different tomes and such, that there's just so many avenues to get a victory in this game. And that is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. And finally for this list, coming in at number 11 is Paladins of the West Kingdom, a 1 to 5 player worker placement game designed by S.J. McDonald and Shim Phillips and published in 2019 by Garphill Games. What I love about Paladins of the West Kingdom that I don't necessarily get in Viscounts is the unique worker placement aspect that this West Kingdom series continues to develop on. Paladins is the heaviest of the three in the West Kingdom series. I love it. When I do the playthrough of this, I don't know if I can fit it all on this table. I'm going to have to elongate it, get the leaves back out. But in Paladins, you are Paladins, and you have a deck of Paladins that you will choose which one to play depending on how many you draw at the start of each round. And you also choose the certain cards with colored meeples on them. And so you will grab those colors, and that's what you will be using in the round. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to lay meeples on different action spaces and trigger those effects that will hopefully trigger other effects to happen and upgrade either your city wall, or give you more resources, or collect other cards. And it's just a fantastic multi-factor game in this worker placement game to achieve victory. And in the solo playthrough, just as Viscounts, as this one, there is an automa player that will take very simple actions. They'll flip over a card and you'll just do what it says, and they will continue to do that throughout the game, and they will be taking spots away from you, but they'll be able to do everything that you do. Thank you for joining me for my top 50 favorite games with solo modes, numbers 20 through 11. I look forward to seeing you at the table for my next playthrough.